Hello everyone, in this video we are going to look at grouping in SQL. Grouping in SQL is a powerful feature that allows you to group rows that have the same values in specified columns into summary rows, right? And the group by clause, just like what we explained in our previous video, aggregation in SQL, the group by clause have the same values, and also it is typically used with aggregated functions, right? And our aggregated functions, we have basic aggregated functions to be count, sum, average, minimum, maximum, right? Now, so in this video, we are going to look at how to group by a single column, what it means to group a column, right? And what it means. Also, we are going to look at grouping by with multiple columns, right? So let's head over to our DBMS and then we'll practicalize some examples. And we have some examples to be counting the number of tracks for each album. Let's see how we can use a group by clause to effect this, right? So we'll treat all these examples, which are all related under grouping by a single column, and then we'll treat another example that would um, make us understand what grouping by multiple columns means, right? So let's head over to our DBMS and then we'll start. But before we do that, let's copy this. So we treat it example by example, but we can do, since we are treating our grouping by today, grouping by, right? Then we do, so we do our multiple line commenting and then we paste, right? Oh, rather, okay, this is just single line, yeah. Do single line, but before that we always paste something that would help us, like a guide, right? So this is our guide. We are talking about grouping by with a single column. So let's do this. Just go back and then we do our multiple line commenting. Yep, and then we paste. So we have like a guide. Now guys, let's look at how to work with this, right? Now it says counting the number of tracks for each album. So guys, be very careful. He's saying we want to get the number of tracks for each album. So if I go to my browse data and then I look at my album table, I'm looking at, okay, we have several albums with different IDs, right? So we want to get the number of tracks inside our album ID one, basically. So in this sense, we will not be using our album table, we'll be using our tracks table, right? So I'm sure we would have a track table. So let's check. Yes, we have a track table. So in this sense, it's saying this track table tells us the track, right? You know, for every album you have different number of tracks, right? So an album is made up of different tracks, right? Now we want to get for each album what are the total count of tracks. So if you notice, we have a track ID for this, which is for those about to rock, and it is under our album ID one. Notice this, we still have another track that is still under album ID one, which is Put the Fingers on You. So the idea is we want to get the count of tracks under different IDs. So we go to our execute. What we'll do is we'll do select. We can do select everything. Right, so we have that. So let's do select everything from tracks. From tracks. Then let's run this so we understand what this means. So we see everything first. So saying, what is it? Okay, we don't have a table called tracks, right? So select everything. So I'm removing the S. So it has given me everything that I need, but I'm not interested in this in my final result, right, guys? I'm not interested in composer, milliseconds. I don't want that. I just want to see the count of tracks that are in different IDs or album IDs, right? So I can do away with this. I can say, okay, I'm interested in my album ID, right? And then I'm interested in getting the count, right? Because the question says counting the number. So your aggregated function should be a count, right? Count what? You want to count the track ID. You want to count the what records your track. It is the track ID, right? So for each track, it has its own unique ID. So we want to be able to count that track ID. So we get the total number of count of the tracks in different albums. That's basically what we want to do. So I can do count track ID, right? And then so now if I do this, right, if I run this, right, we have the total number of tracks in. So I'm sorry, so I don't want to, so we'll not confuse each other, we'll not confuse ourselves. So let's say I do this. So we basically get the total number of tracks in our track table, right? So we have 3,503 tracks in our track table, right? But now we want to be able to group the tracks in respect of their albums. That's basically what we want to do. So using group by, we can do that. So we want to shred this so that we'll have different albums and then the count, the number of tracks in those albums. So what we need to do is put our album ID here, right? Because this is what we use to group. Then we come down and do our group by. Group by, definitely our album ID, right? So we want to group it by album ID. Now let's run this. See, now this is what we are talking about. So you notice that we now have for album ID is telling us that we have 10 tracks. For album ID 2, we have 1 track. For album ID 3, we have 3 tracks. So let's say we have an album that the video releases, which is termed as album ID 1. Within that album or inside the album, we have 10 tracks. That's basically what we're trying to check. It says counting the number of tracks for each album. So for each album with these different IDs, we've seen the number of tracks that it possesses. So if I want to get the highest track or the album that has the highest number of tracks, we can be able to sort. Remember, we've done sort, right? Order by. But before we use order by, instead of having our count track ID, remember I also showed you guys how to use aliases, right? How to sort with aliases. So in that sense, we need to call this a beautiful name instead of having it as a column called count of track of ID, right? So we can use AS count track ID as maybe number of tracks, something like that. So let's see if I run this. Let's see if I run only these 3 columns. Let's see. It's going to drop an error. Why? Because we are giving it space. SQL does not understand, is this a string or what are you trying to do? So if I join this together, it's going to work, right? See, it's going to work. It has changed it, but hey, I want to have like a space so it will look better. So we'll make it inside a string, right? Which is also because this is a string, guys. So so now with this, I can now order by alias, right? Alias called number of tracks, right? Because we want to make this, we want to see the highest number of tracks, the album that has the highest number of tracks. So we come here, I'll do number of tracks. Now remember, if we don't put our DESC keyword, it's going to still sort it in an ascending order. But hey, we want to have it in a descending order, so we'll be able to see the highest number of tracks, right? The album that has the highest number of tracks. So we'll do DESC. Then when we run this, we have Kabi. So in this sense, we've noticed that the album that has the ID 141 has the highest number of tracks, 57. Man, that's the musician or the musician that has this album is a top musician for having this kind of count of tracks in one album. So yes, I think that's that. So let's head over to the next example. It says you should also calculate the total sales for each customer. So let's go. So we do this and we paste, right? So we have that topic. So now let's go, guys. It says calculating the total sales for each customers. Now in this sense, if you are looking at for each customers, if you want to see, let's say, because I like doing this, guys, I like seeing my table first, all the content in my table. So let's see, I'm looking at customer. Let's check the customer table. Right, customer. Let's see if this works. close this. Okay, so I have all these columns in my customer table, but I don't have anything that relates to sales. So, but I remember that we've done something with invoice table that has sales. So let's see. And hey, mind you, remember this ID tracks all the customers, right? So I can still have this customer ID in another table. I know that this customer ID with one is Luis Gonzalez, right? Now, so let's see for invoice. Let's see if we have a sales or something regarding to, yes, this is it, total sales, right? And then we also have customer ID that is related to our customer table. Hmm? So I think this is our table that we need to use. So the question is, calculate the total sales for each customer, right? So now basically we want to see the sum of this. We want to get the sum of this total. Then we now want to shred it into different customers. So now for we to do that, we can say select all, or basically I want to see the total sales in my invoice table first, right? So guys, look at how I am asking myself questions and I'm trying to break these things down before we get to our main query. Now, I want to be able to first of all do the total sales in my invoice table. So for me to do that, I'll use my aggregate function, right? Sum, and then I'll sum this total column, right? Total. So if I do this, so it's going to give me, see? So the total sales in our invoice table is summed up to 2,328.6, whatever the case may be, dollars, euro, or naira, right? So now the question says calculate the total sales. Now we're able to calculate total sales, right? So we can still name it as, remember aliases, guys, total sales. So if you are leaving a space, please, I encourage you to use an apostrophe, right? So we'll know that, or a quote. So we know this is basically a string. SQL will know that this is a string, right? So let me run this again. So we'll have it as total sales better. Now, because we now have the total sales, we now want to group these total sales by different customers. And hey, we have our customer ID that represents our customers, right? Then I'll come and say group by customer ID. But hey, where is my customer ID in my select statement? I need to go and fix it behind our aggregated function, right? We come and say customer ID. That's what we want to group by. Tab key, comma, and then we come here. Then we do group by customer ID. Now watch how our customer ID will be grouped based on the total sales that each customer brought into our inventory or our shop or where we sell our albums, right? So yeah, once I run this, cabbage, you see? So we've been able to see that, okay, remember that man's name that I mentioned, Franca Goncalves or something, with the customer ID 1, made purchase of different albums that summed up to $39.62, right? So we can even be able to see the highest customer that brought in the highest total sales, right? How do we do that? We need to sort, right? By descending order. So simple as A, B, C. So let's head over to the last example. And guys, remember all what we've been doing we've been grouping by a single column. So I can still add this here. We've been grouping by a single column. That's basically what we've been doing, right? If you notice our group by statement, we've been having just one column, right? Group by album ID, we also grouped by customer ID here. So let's do our last example. So let's do this. So we are trying to group customers by country and then count the number of customers in each country. Guys, remember, try to decipher the question, right? Try to understand what it says. It says we want to group customers by country and then count the number of customers in each country. So what table will be able to help us see all these things? I'm looking at my customer table because I'm sure we would have our customer ID that will be able to help us answer this question. And then we also have our country column that will be able to help us answer this question as well. So let's see our customer table. So select all, right, from customer. So I like doing this so I'll be able to visualize my table. So we have customer ID, fine, and then we also have country column, and then we also have whatever. Yeah. So I think this is the table we are supposed to use, right? So we would say, now remember that we want to get the count of customers. So in that sense, we want to be able to count this customer ID. So I can come and say count. And anytime you hear how many, count the number, how many, the aggregated function you have to use is count. Hmm? If I say how many customers do we have in this table called customer table, it is the count function you're supposed to use, right? I'll say select count. I can still say select count asterisk, right? I can still say select count customer ID, right? So yeah. So if I do this now, I can say if I run these guys, it is giving me that we have total number of customers to be 59. So in our table, in our customer table, we have 59 customers that patronized the business, right? The tunic business or whatever. Right? So we can still come here to say as total customers, total number of customers, right? So remember to put your codes. Yeah. So now we have this, but now we want to group. We want to now see that. Remember, we've answered this question, right? Count the number of customers, right? This is what we've done. We've seen the number of customers that we have in our customer table. But now we want to now see by each country, what are the customers we have? What are the count of customers we have? Since we've been able to get our total number of customers, now we can be able to group this total number of customers by different country, right? Hence why this definition says is a powerful feature that allows you to group rows that have the same values in specified columns into some rows. That's basically what we want to do here. So we come down and we say we put our country because we want to group by country now, right? Put our country behind our aggregated function, which is count. Then we come down and say group by country, right? And then we close. And then watch, guys. It's going to shred this and also going to rename this column. So let's go. See total number of customers, and then so for the country Argentina, we just had one customer that bought an album. For the country Australia, we had one customer that came from Australia or that hails from Australia that bought an album. So if you want to also see the highest country that has the highest number of customers that patronize the company, Chinook or whatever, right? We do order by total number of customers because we want it to be a descending order, right? DSC. So let's see, once we run this, so definitely the country United States of America has the highest number of customers that patronized the business, right? So you see, that's so simple. So let's head over to what we have, which is basically grouping by multiple column. Grouping by multiple columns. So let's do the needful. So I'm going to do this so it will serve as a guide. So I basically don't need this. Oh, okay, we still need this. Let me just do it like, yep, yeah. So we close this then, close it to, yeah. So we have it as a guide. So we are now grouping by multiple columns, not by single column, right? So now what example will be able to make me explain this? Because we need to have two columns in our group by clause, unlike how we have it initially. We just have only one column that we are grouping by. So let's say, what What example? Let's see, example. So in my head, I'm feeling that let's check our customer table again. I'm feeling we can use our customer table to depict this. So we have, okay, yes, we can. So now, guys, let me explain something. So let's say we want to see the count of customers, right? Just like what we did initially. The count of customers that bought different albums, right? But these customers must hail from the same city and the same country. So remember what we did initially, right? We did we did group by country after we got our total count of customers, right? But now we want to be able to group by two columns. We want to group with multiple columns so that we want to see if we have higher number of customers that patronized us, right? And they hail from the same country and also the same city, right? Not just the same country. We want to now go deep down to check if we have customers that patronize the business and they hail from the same country and also the same city, right? That's basically, so that's like more granularity and more insight, right? So instead of having customers that come from the same country, we want to also check for customers, the count of customers that come from the same country and then the same city. That's basically. So we do the same thing that we've done. So basically, you know me, I don't like stress, guys. I'll come here and copy back. So I'll come here. So before I do that, let's just have the what we want to do. So check. So this is from my head. Check which country. Check which country. Check which. Yeah. Check which country and city and country have check. You can say check what. See, English is hard, guys. So check what city and country have the highest number of customers. That's basically what we want to do, right? So not just city now. We want to check if we have customers that still come from the same country and also the same city. So we do select country. Count no. So now let's still start, right? So we want to answer this number of customers. We've done it by count of our customer ID as total number of customers, right? If we run this to give us what it gave us before, 59. So we now want to shred this total number of customers into customers that come from the same country and also the same city, right? So what we are going to do is just to put country. We want to see country in our final result, right? And also we want to group by them, country and also city at the back of our aggregated function count. And then we want to also see, we want to definitely group by those two columns, right? Country and then city, basically. Let's close this. Then once we run this, watch, guys. See? So the idea is if I go to this, I'm saying that. So if I go to this, I'm saying that. Now watch this, guys. Let me explain again. Notice that we have one. We have some customers that come from Prague in Czech Republic. Another customer still bought something that still comes from Prague and Czech Republic. So when I'm grouping this, meaning my Czech Republic and Prague would have two counts of customers. I hope that makes sense. So that's basically what we want to do. We don't just want to group by only country, we want to group by city and country. So we have the count of customers that come from this exact city and also exact country. That's basically what we did here, right? So for me to see this, let's say I want to now check the country and city that has the highest count of customers. I think that's what this question says, right? It says check which city and country have the highest number of customers. So yes, so we need to do our sort, which is order by total number of customer, right? We are sorting by aliases. We've done this in our previous video. So we do order by total number of customers, right? Then in a descending order. We don't want it to automatically sort in an ascending order, sort in an ascending order. So we want to sort in a descending order. So when we run this code, or rather, when we run this query, voila. See? Exactly. Just what I said. I said Prague will also have two counts of customer. Yes. See? So we now have Brazil. So we have customers. We have two people or two different guys that patronized our business, but they come from the same city and also the same country. So that's basically grouping by different or multiple columns, right? So in this video, we've been able to cover grouping by single column. Then we did a whole lot of examples, and then we also covered grouping by multiple columns. So I'm so happy that you got to me or you stayed with me to this stage, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.